Good morning, Houston. Kara Willis here with the K-Spot News. Joining me today, I have Julio Peterson III. He's going to be talking to us about something that your kids would be interested in watching at home during COVID-19 that is safe, exciting, and fun. Julio, how are you?
I'm doing very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. It's Saturday, the sun is shining, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to be talking to you today.
Aw, same here.
Thank you for joining me. I wanted to ask you, tell us a little bit about your background. Um, Tell us about your concept that I'm trying to keep under wraps. I don't want to talk about it too much. I want you to do that. But
Okay.
just tell us, who is Julio?
All right. Well, hello everybody. My name is Julio Peterson III, as she said. I was born and raised in St. Croix in the United States Virgin Islands. Um, uh, as when I turned 18, I joined the United States Army, where I served for 8 years, 5 years on active duty and 3 years in the Army Reserve. While I was in the military, I in 2008 I won Operation Rising Star, which was the military's version of American Idol. So in parentheses, military idol is what they would do. And that was in 2008. And then in 2009, I went on to be selected to perform in the United States Army Soldier Show. The Soldier Show was a touring group of a group of soldiers that were talented soldiers that were selected, and we toured the United States and installations across the world, entertaining family members and the troops, and providing just an outlet for them to have a few moments of entertainment. We did songs and dancing and acting, and think of it as like a very high pace 90 minutes Broadway production. So I did that for, it was about a 10-month run. Well, a 9-month run. We would rehearse for 3 months straight, and then you will go on tour for 9 months. So I did that in 2009. And then in 2010, I got deployed to Iraq for a year. And after that, in 2012, I got selected again to go back to the Soldier Show. So I did that in the 2012 Soldier Show as well. So I toured for 2 years, and then after that, I got out of the military. Well, I got off active duty, and I moved to Houston, where I went back to school. I attended Texas Southern University as a vocal performance major, and I minored in theater. And during that time, I was still in the Army Reserves as well. My time at TSU was a eye opener. It was a very wonderful learning experience. It introduced me to so much that I did not even know that I could do. At the time that I was there, I noticed that there were not a lot of opportunities for people of color to perform. I remember specifically I had went to do some auditions in the city of Houston, and some of my colleagues or classmates at the time were also auditioning, and we were all great in my opinion. But I got chosen to be selected in the show. However, the rest of my colleagues or my classmates, should I say colleagues or classmates? I guess
Say both. You can say both.
the rest of my classmates at the time that audition did not get selected. And when I looked at the cast, I noticed that I was one of the only few people of color in the show. So after that, I kind of reflected on it for a bit, and then I decided, well, it would be cool if I could give them the opportunity to perform. At the time as well, TSU, we were not really, as students, we were not really given opportunities to perform in the public either. So I said, you know what, I would like to create something that will give them the opportunity to do so. So I gathered a group of friends, vocal performance majors, and some theater students, and I started the JP production company. And so, yeah. So my thought process during this time was, like I said, it was to give us an opportunity to perform. And it was during the holiday time was coming up. So I said, let's put on a Christmas concert. So,
everyone loves a Christmas concert.
right, so I got to brainstorming, all of us got together. I chose all of the music that we were gonna do, and I used my experience from the Soldier Show to create this show that we were doing for. Presented it to Dr. Obi, who is the chairman of the music department. But the music department, and I asked him for his support. Like, how could he support this? And I presented everything to him, and he was fully on board with it. And so he was like, well, there's not really much that we could do. You will have to, as far as resources go, because we're pretty stretched with resources. So I said, it's fine. I will try to figure out a way to do this. So we started rehearsing, and we created the show. And Dr. Obi pulled his strings, and he contacted a few venues, mainly churches, and we went on tour. We did we did like a little mini tour in Houston at different churches, and we performed our concert there. And so that was the first production of JP Production Company at the time.
How was the feedback with the tour?
So the feedback from the tour, so the audience, well, congregation. So the people in the church, they loved it. They loved the concert. They loved seeing young people performing these Christmas songs. Everybody loves Christmas songs. Mm-hmm. And so they really enjoyed it. So we did those mini concert, but then we also had a main concert that we did. And that, it went well. However, of the main concert, we had 2 performances of the main concerts. The first one, we had a good, I would say, 15 people in the audience. And then the second one, we had about 4. 4? Yeah, 4 to 6 people in the audience. And so that was a challenge now. Okay. Yeah, we went to these places, but the audience was already there. That's their audience. They came there for a church service. So now the issue was trying to get people to come to our concert and be in our audience.
Was there any marketing going on? How is promotion happening to get the word out?
Well, we marketed it. I had flyers made. We stuck flyers on people's cars, mainly at TSU. What else did we do? TSU. So what the music department did was they allowed us to partner with them. And so they promoted it as a music department concert, but it was in partnership with JP Production Company, kind of like us riding on their coattails.
Like a collaboration.
Yeah. Trying to get their audience. But reality was there isn't a lot, well, no, I wouldn't say wasn't. Let me rephrase that. Reality is there wasn't a lot of support at the time for musical concerts coming out of TSU. Like, great, wonderful, extremely talented musicians, but we struggled with getting people to come out to our performances. So the same thing happened when we did the Christmas production. Mm-hmm. So from there, lesson learned. We still we had a huge accomplishment. We produced our first show, so it was a start. So the following year, we decided to do it again, but this time we didn't want to use the church community, so to speak. Is that politically correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. This time we wanted.
And Julio, I'm going to stop you for a second. Were those churches predominantly Black churches, or were they a mixed crowd?
Yes, they were predominantly Black churches. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
The following year was when I presented it to Dr. Obi again. Hey, we have Christmas time is coming up. It's time for another concert. And he was on board again. Sorry. He was on
You're
board.
fine.
And so this time he spoke to the theater department. And they had told us that the Deluxe Theater, which was the new theater, newly remodeled theater in Fifth Ward, had partnered with TSU to host their productions there as their openings. So that was exciting for us. Now we get actual theater to perform in, you know? So we had our second production at the Deluxe Theater. And lo and behold, our show was the first show being produced in that theater for their opening. So
That's incredible.
yes, yes. So that was huge. It was huge for the music department. It was huge for TSU. It was huge for us as a baby company as well to have our show be the premiere one. And it was almost a sold out audience, the biggest audience that we had at the time.
So you made TSU history, would you say?
Hey. Yeah, it was very well received. And like I said, the audience, it had a huge audience. It was packed. So that was we went from, like I said, 5 people to now performing at the Deluxe Theater. So we after that was December I'm sorry. So the first show was December 2014. And now this second one at the Deluxe Theater was December 2015. After that, I auditioned for, can I call names? I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
If you'd like.
Okay. I auditioned for a popular review show here in Houston that does their shows every year. And it was kind of like the same thing where my classmates auditioned too, and they didn't get selected. I got selected. And kind of the same scenario where I wanted to do something like that for them. So I created the retro review, music of the 60s and 70s. I guess that gave away what we auditioned for. So I created a retro review, music of the 60s and 70s, to give us an opportunity to perform our songs, our culture. And so we did that at the Deluxe Theater as well. This was summer 2016. We did that at the Deluxe Theater, and that was sold out. So that was our first sold out show that we did. And very, very, very well received also, like great feedback. And that, I think that show was what established us as a production company here in Houston, because it wasn't just a church crowd or a TSU crowd. It was a community of people just from everywhere that loved Motown music and wanted to come and hear it in an indoor space versus an outdoor space. So we had people from all walks of life coming in, enjoying the music. I mean, the audience was going crazy for every song. It was great.
Do you feel that was the reason why the response wasn't as great the first time? Because you restricted yourself to a certain audience instead of just making it more broad to the community?
100%. Okay. That was one of the reflections that we did. Absolutely, 100%. And I think that's always been like the mission of our company now. Fast forward, we don't want to just limit ourselves to one thing or one demographic of people, like, you know. So, and that's what's been the success story for us.
Well, congratulations to you.
Yeah,
seems like you've had a long timeline of successes and challenges, but you're here now. And the reason for this interview that I didn't want to give away, but I'm just so anxious to talk about it. Just to let
you know.
Everyone, Julio is so full of personality. He is the most fun person you'll ever meet. If you ever have a chance to connect with him or send him an email or follow him on socials, I will make sure at the end of this interview to link all of that. Just stop by and say hi. He is a person that you definitely want to know on the theater scene.
Thank you.
Julio, please take me out of my misery and tell me what concept you have going on right now with COVID-19, us being in the middle of a pandemic, and just everything being so out of our ordinary right now.
Yeah.
We know that kids are at home and they're trying to get used to this new norm, trying to find ways to stay entertained and still stay safe. What did you come up with during this time that has everyone oohing and eyeing, including myself?
Oh, Mr. Pete's Playhouse!
What is Mr. Pete's Playhouse? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am a theater teacher here in Houston, and just like other teachers and the world, COVID-19 hit, and it just came out of nowhere, and we were all stuck in the house trying to figure out how to live, pretty much. And so what I noticed was that we were all talking about how it affects us as adults and our jobs and our livelihood and stuff, but we were not really talking about how it affects the kids, really. And so as a teacher, as an elementary teacher at that was very important to me. So it was twofold. The first fold was I needed to find a way to continue to teach theater and reach my students, especially the really, really small ones, and incorporate stuff that will touch the older ones as well. You know, in a regular school day, I see pre-K through fifth grade, and so I adjust my lesson plans for each grade level. But now I'm at home, how do I figure this out? And we didn't really have a guidance really yet at the time because it had just happened. And so all the higher ups were trying to scramble to figure out what can we do? So I went to school one day. We were giving out books, actually, for students that didn't have laptops or technology at the time. So we were giving out books, and one of the first grade teachers, Miss Alyssa Jones, she was like, "Hey, why don't you do video recordings, like record your lessons for the kids?" And I was like,
So a coworker put this in your head?
Yes, a coworker did. Yes.
Yes, please give her some credit.
Yes, Miss Alyssa Jones. Thank you. So I was kind of iffy because I kind of history. I don't really like to hear myself talk because I was teased a lot for always sounding like a character, Kermit the Frog. That was one. And and then two, I just didn't have experience of talking on video. I didn't like to see myself or just talk on video anyway. So I had to get out of my own comfort zone.
Well, you sound great.
Oh,
you sound like a natural.
And now I use it to my advantage because now I can create voices.
This is true. This is true. An advantage that most of us don't have. So you own that.
Thank you. So anyway, let me fast forward. So I went home and I created the first episode. I went upstairs where it was quiet, and I sat down with my phone, and I what did I put it on? Like I put the phone on a chair, and no, I put the laptop on a chair, and then I had the phone like in the middle of the laptop, and I was talking like that. And so I don't even remember what the first episode was, but it was an episode that I just wanted to allow the kids to know that we hear them. Everything is going to be okay, that I love them and that I miss them, and just stuff like that. And then I did that for like the older kids, and then for the younger kids, I included some songs in there like skinnamarink dinky dink, skinnamarink do, I love you. Stuff like that.
And you know I'm gonna make you sing. So I'm
Oh,
glad that you said that. So you're gonna have to pick a song of your choice
oh
to let
Lord.
us know what beautiful talent you have that makes everyone go crazy for Mr. Pete's Playhouse. Because
Oh,
I've seen Mr. Pete's Playhouse, and
yeah.
for me, the music is just so beautiful.
Thank
Your
you.
voice is heaven sent.
Yeah, wow.
So you have to let everyone who doesn't know who Julio is know about this God-given talent.
Thank you. Well,
You're so welcome. What kind of song? What kind of songs? Where did you find the inspiration for the music? Are you writing the lyrics?
no. So from that episode, I started to, I guess, well, I posted it on Facebook first, and like just start getting a whole bunch of positive feedback and positive energy and people sharing it, and it was like, oh my God, this is so great, this is so great, and I was like, okay. What did I
Didn't
just do?
expect that response.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't really like attention, so I'm like, oh gosh, what did I just do?
A theater person not wanting attention?
Right, it's weird. Not in the spotlight, I don't like attention. But so I was like, okay, people were saying this is a great thing. They're showing their kids love it. Okay, they want more, they want more, they want more. So I had to give them more. So from that episode, I reached out to Kirk Rojas of Remedy Production. He is the one that does all the graphic designs for JP Theater Company, and he also does graphic designs for his own company, right, which is Remedy Productions. Excellent, excellent work. So I reached out to Kirk, and I presented it to him, and he was excited for it. So he jumped on board, and he was like, "Let's get to work." And so I created the second episode. I don't even remember what it was. It's been so many, but I created the second episode, and somebody said, "Hey, this reminds me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Reading Rainbow."
Mm-hmm.
So of course, I grew up with Reading Rainbow and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but I needed, wow, what's going on with my sinuses?
And
So,
don't forget Gullah Gullah Island, my favorite.
and Gullah Gullah Island, exactly. So I started researching it and looking at their episodes and stuff. And out of the box, that was the biggest one, out of the box. And so I kind of used their concept of picking a topic and presented it in a child-friendly version.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I choose the songs? I first come up with a topic. For example, I think the second episode that we did, oh, it was the lunchtime episode. That's what that was. So, so the lunchtime episode was, it was because something came to me where I was like, I really do miss seeing the kids at lunch, like in the
Mm-hmm.
cafeteria. You know, I missed that. So I created an episode where we would make a PB&J sandwich together.
That's
So
so neat.
yeah,
That is so neat. I never would have thought of getting the kids involved at home, something that they're teaching themselves to do. Maybe because they're at home so much now, mom and dad, they're there obviously to help them make lunch, but they want to be hands-on. I know that much. So
exactly.
if Mr. Pete is saying, hey, this is how you make a PB&J, of course they're going to want to do it too, if
Right.
it's in a fun, engaging way.
Exactly. So I needed to find stuff that needed materials that every child would have, from the low income child to the more privileged child, and the ones in between. And everybody, I would hope, would have some bread and peanut butter and jelly in their house, you know? And together we could all make our own version of a PB&J sandwich. And so
I love that. I love that.
yeah, so I created the lunchtime episode, and so we created a PB&J sandwich, and I also wanted to include culture in it. Like you said, I'm very big on culture, so I said, hey, I need to find a way to include Caribbean or Virgin Islands culture in this, because my audience is also Virgin Islanders. So I needed to find something that they can relate to. So in the lunchtime episode, I talked about our local foods as well, foods that we would eat at lunch, pate and Johnny cake and fried fish and all of that stuff. And I included that in the episode. And then I found songs that talk about food. Um, I like to eat apples and bananas. So that was one of
Love that song.
yeah.
Who does not remember that song?
Exactly. So that was one of the songs that I remember my kids singing in the classroom. So we sung that song and some other child-friendly songs. And then I was introduced to my cousin had a daughter or has a daughter by the name of Parker. Brilliant, brilliant 4-year-old girl that is so worldly. Like, so worldly and so amazing, like beyond her age. She is incredible and lots of personality. And so her mom told me, well, Parker was trying to create a YouTube channel on her own. And so I was like, well, we could partner together. So Parker came on board, and now Parker is part of our episodes. And so Parker created some shapes and stuff out of fruits.
Really?
Yes, and so she taught.
Parker should have been a part of the interview. You're leaving Parker out today. Why are you taking all the shine, Julio? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so Parker created her shapes out of fruits, and so we included that in the episode. And from then, Parker has been like a staple in our episodes, and it was great because now we have a 4-year-old teaching other young kids how to do stuff at home instead of
so they can relate to her.
Exactly. So from then, that's how we just continued. And every week, I would find a new topic to try to explore. Now, it became challenging because, of course, I was still having to come up with lesson plans for school and teach my kids and all that stuff. So life got in the way. But I tried my best to work around it, you know. And then we needed to find a way to. Oh no, what happened? So the police brutality started happening, and more and more COVID-19 cases started popping up and all of that stuff. What is my sinuses messing up? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So, and of course on social media, everybody was, talking about it and protesting and all of that stuff. So we were like, we can't avoid this topic. Like, we can't.
I'm glad you brought that up. You have was it covered in your Juneteenth episode, your most recent?
So the first worldly episode we did was, we talked about Memorial Day, and the realities of what Memorial Day was or is. We talked about Mother's Day, and then after the George Floyd incident, we went on to how to express our feelings. So it's the feelings episode. So we needed to find a way to talk about it without getting too deep in it, because of course we still needed it to be for kids to be able to understand and not be, so for it to be still child friendly. So we talked about it and we were like, how about sorry, it's coming back to me. So I'll talk about my own self, if that's okay, or I'll be
Take it away. Take it away.
So I'll be transparent. So I'm a disabled veteran, and one of my disabilities, I struggle with PTSD and anxiety. And so during the George Floyd situation with the protesting and everything, that really triggered me. And I talked to my counselor and all this stuff, and we practiced breathing exercises and meditation and all of that stuff, trying to figure out how to deal with it. And I said, I know I've had anxiety attacks in the classroom. I've had it, and in front of my kids. And it was because of them after the fact, after I've calmed down, it was because of their words of comfort. That's how I was able to return the next day, of course. But you know, they helped to calm me down. And so I was like, well, I know that I am struggling with this right now. I can't imagine what they are dealing with. Because again, we are not um, really talking about how this affects the child. So we created the, I think it's Let's Express Our Feelings episode, or Let's Learn About Our Feelings or something, just to let the child know that it's okay to talk about how you feel. Your
Mm-hmm.
feelings are valid. Your feelings are important. However you are feeling, it is okay, and we understand. And so that's what that episode was. It taught Parker actually talked about and demonstrated how to properly meditate and do yoga. So it came from, yeah, it came from Parker teaching young kids how to do so.
And Parker's 4.
Parker is 4.
Oh my gosh, Parker can teach us a lot. I'm
Yes,
serious.
and
We
I
need
have
to have an
learned a
interview
lot.
with Parker.
I've learned a lot from Parker, yes. So we talked about that. We sung songs that let the child know that you know they're going to be okay and that they are loved, and whatever they're feeling does not make them weird or strange. It just makes them normal, just like everyone else. And so we created that episode in response to everything that was going on in society. And after that, I was like, we need to take a break because it's a lot going on. So we need to take a break and we need to just leave this episode up for a while. So nothing else can come after it. Parents, if they need, they can just see it right there at the top and they click on it and help themselves and their kids get through it. So we left that episode up for about 2 to 3 weeks. So we took a break. We took a break for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we just debuted our latest episode, which was yesterday, in response to Juneteenth. So we did a Let's Celebrate Freedom episode, or let's learn about the fight for freedom episode. Yes, and so that episode teaches about the history of Juneteenth and why it's important. And it also teaches about Emancipation Day in the Virgin Islands, because Juneteenth and Emancipation Day are very, very similar, although they were years apart. And although at the time we were under 2 different flags, the Virgin Islands was under the Danish flag, and of course America was America. But people in the Virgin Islands were emancipated before people in America, Black people in America. However, the way that they were emancipated was very similar. So we talked about both instances in that episode, and then sung songs again. We sung songs about the Underground Railroad, and also songs about the protesting in the Virgin Islands, and just try to connect the two and present it to the child for them to understand. So we touch on fun topics and also not so fun topics, but presented in a way that they can learn and understand as well.
You said something so key that really caught my attention. You stressed the importance of Juneteenth and Black history.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were about, that the little voice in your head said, Julio, these are kids, it's an uncomfortable topic? Did you wonder if you'd receive criticism from parents because they're not having that conversation with their kids just yet? What advice would you give to a parent who may be shielding their kids just from everything that's going on right now? Imagine that kid that maybe has these feelings, and the parent is just as uncomfortable as a child, so those conversations aren't happening. What would you say to that parent on how to approach it, besides watching Mr. Pete's Playhouse?
Well, as a teacher, I have learned that students know more than we think they know. That's the most important thing. they are watching, they are listening, and they are observing. So the conversation just needs to start. And of course, as a child, they wouldn't know, maybe wouldn't be comfortable, like you said, approaching their parent if the parent doesn't bring them up. But it's in their child's brain. Like they have feelings about it because they're seeing it. It's around them. They're on social media. They know what's going on. So I guess we created Mr. Peace Playhouse event. So eventually, and I had this conversation with Kirk, and we was like an aha moment. Wow, we need to be that bridge. We need to fill that gap for the parents. We need to be that voice to allow them to have that conversation, to see that it's okay to have that conversation, and to find ways to have that conversation. So although we speak about Black history and Juneteenth and Emancipation Day, we worded it in a way and presented it in a way where we made it okay to present it to your, or have that conversation with your child. So you just gotta find a way to make it child friendly. You know, the kids understand. You just have to know how to teach it to them. And it's important that we do teach it to them, or else it will get lost, or they will go seek it from elsewhere and then get the wrong information. You know? Because
You don't want them getting it from the wrong information.
Exactly.
There's just so much out there where you could
Exactly.
use it as a resource, and that resource isn't always the greatest resource.
Exactly. And in reality, Black history isn't really taught in the schools like it should be, especially in elementary schools.
Only a snippet,
Yeah.
not the full picture.
And it's not from firsthand information. It's based on the opinions of, I won't even get into that. But it is extremely important for us to be able to teach our culture and talk about our culture, because if we don't do it, then either it's going to get lost, or they're going to find it out from somewhere else and then be taught the wrong things. And I told you, you know, I have the same kind of approach with theater as well. Live theater needs to be telling our stories. And so in everything that we do, I try to find a way to tell our story. And I feel like parents need to be able to do that. And I feel like they are going to now, with shows like Mr. Peace Playhouse and others out there. After they watch it, kids are going to have questions. So hopefully it opens the door to that dialogue between the parents and their kids at the breakfast table after they watch Mr. Pete's Playhouse.
Well, I'm sure they are having those conversations. And if anything, they're talking about your music, which I haven't forgotten. You're going to sing Julio. But just to wrap things up about Mr. Pete's Playhouse, do you have any advice for that Black artist that is sitting at home right now? Maybe they're not back at work. Maybe they've been laid off. Maybe their creativity has been stunted in some way. What advice would you have to give to them about taking that leap of faith and just creating?
That's it.
And I feel like we need more creation right now. I feel like that's going to make us feel warm and good and have some positive feelings during this time.
Absolutely. It is hard. It is hard to create in this space. It is hard to be motivated to do anything, really, because it's such a confusing time. I mean, even for me and Kirk, we struggle with that, being motivated to create, you know? So to that artist, I would say to trust that voice inside in your head, to really trust it and listen to it, because I'll use myself as an example. Yeah, I'm doing Mr. Peace Playhouse, but one of the reasons why I took that 3-week break was because I wasn't motivated to create anymore. But there was something in me that said, this is what happened. So I go walking and running like every day. I either walk or I run. And I started doing it without listening to music. And while I'm running, I walk without listening to music, not run, can't run without music. But I walk without listening to music. And while I was walking, like all of these things would come into my head as I'm walking outside, and these images, these thoughts, these stories, these voices, everything would be coming into my head. And that's just my creativity just going. And so I was like, I need to write this stuff down, So I started listening. And in those 3 weeks of me not creating an episode for Mr. Pete's Playhouse, I wrote 4 children's stories.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
It's amazing where we get inspiration from.
Exactly. And so I forced myself every morning. I would sit right out there on the front porch. And at 9 o'clock, I kid you not, I'm not lying. At 9 o'clock, I would sit out there on the front porch and I would delete social media off of my phone. Of course, I add it back on later, but I would delete social media off of my phone and I would sit there and I will not get up until I have written a story. So I'm forcing myself to create.
And that motivated you.
It has motivated me to continue writing more stories. So I have, in that short period of three weeks, I have written 4 stories. It's called The Adventures of Kari. Kari's name is King in I think it's Nigeria, or don't use that part.
Okay, I'll cut it.
But it's an Africa in one of these African countries. His name means, I think it's Swahili. His name means king. And so I write, so Kari is really little Julio growing up in the Virgin Islands or in a cultural environment. And I write stories based on my experiences as a child. And so Kari's adventures came out of me forcing myself to sit. Oh, excuse me. Let me say that again. So I don't know why I'm burping. So Kari's adventures came out of me forcing myself to sit and create. No matter how unmotivated or uninspired I am, I'm forcing myself to do it. So just do it. Just get up there and do it. That's the only way.
Positive words from Julio there. I think that we all needed to hear a little joy, some type of warmth during this pandemic. I know I did. It has uplifted my spirits. Thank you, Julio, for spreading that to us. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, Julio is going to sing a song of his choice from Mr. Pete's Playhouse, just to give you a glimpse of what those episodes are like. And I'm sure Julio can attest to the fact that music has that ability to spread those messages in a different way. It makes people happy. Music just has that strong ability to make us feel a certain type of way, even if it's a difficult topic to talk about. Mm-hmm. So Julio, I'm going to have you take it away. And after this interview, you will see a clip of Mr. Pete's Playhouse. And I encourage you all to watch it. I don't care if you're 5, 12, 45, 30, it doesn't matter. It will lift your spirits, I reassure you. So Julio, let us hear what you got.
Oh gosh. I don't even know. Oh, you let's see. I guess in this moment, I'll sing the I Love You song.
Okay.
Kids need to know that they are loved, and if they don't hear it from anybody, they hear it from us, right? Mm-hmm. Parents, kids, and adults too. Mm-hmm. So this is the I Love You song. And it's familiar with 90s babies too. Okay. Let's see. Can you do it with me? You gotta do it with me.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it with you.
Skinnamarink dinky dink, skinnamarink doo, I love you. Skinnamarink dinky dink, skinnamarink doo, I love you. I love you in the morning and in the afternoon. I love you in the evening and underneath the moon. Skinnamarink dinky dink, skinnamarink doo. I love you.
So I know if you're watching this from home, that just made you feel all the feels and just felt so good to tackle your Saturday. Julio, thank you so much for joining me on this interview today to Take time out of your Saturday to tell the K-spotters out there who you are, what you're about, what they can achieve, and all about Mr. Pete's Playhouse. We're definitely going to be watching and keeping up with you. Tell us how to stay in touch with you on your socials and on YouTube.
Yeah, so you can follow us on our Facebook page at Mr. Pete's Playhouse. On YouTube, our YouTube channel is Mr. Pete's Playhouse. So follow us, like it, subscribe, share it, all of that good stuff.
All right, there you have it all. This is Julio. Follow him. He's on to big things with Mr. Pete's Playhouse. And we'll see you soon. Coming up next on my channel and my platform, you guys are going to see the cheap last-minute Father's Day deals that maybe you missed. If you are a last-minute shopper like I am, you won't want to miss these deals. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. So fun.